parked his horse and buggy right there. It is a spot for horse and buggy parking, dedicated. How neat. Alright everybody, we're on our way to Horseshoe Curve and Glitzens. Stay tuned. Alright everybody, good morning, almost good afternoon, folks. We are just outside of Hartford, Connecticut, heading west. Like I said this morning, like I said in the last video, we're not sure where we're gonna end up today. Our destination is Altoona. We're gonna stop at the Horseshoe Curve. For those of you not familiar with the Horseshoe Curve, it is something designed by the railroads to cut the trip by miles for trains, instead of them going through certain mountain passes. They go around, but they make a big horseshoe curve, and on your train, when you head in, you can see your rear end on the train as well. So that's really cool. We're going to try to stop by that. I'm going to try to get some good video of that. But it looks like we might be truck stop camping from here on out until we get home on Sunday. Well, it's a pretty nice day out here. The skies are clear. We're off the coast, so no winds here, and we're back into the lower 80s. So, hey, we'll see what this adventure holds. All right, everybody, stay tuned. Well, looky there. Ospreys, and they look like we're along the side of the highway, but they can't see them. Oh, there they are. Can you hear them? Wow.
It looks like that one's gonna land on us.
Oh, that was cool. Well, everybody, we made it to Horseshoe Curve. This train was already going through when I was coming up the steps. It's 240 steps to the top, just give or take. So yeah. Here we go, folks. This is a big train. Double DPU coming through. One of these might be a helper. One or two. Yep, man. We are gonna sit here. We're gonna wait for some more trains. Wait for actual trains come through, not just half a train. I waited to record because I was sucking air and I didn't feel like sucking air on camera. So, you know. Cool, you can still hear it. Well, we're gonna wait. Look at this locomotive at Pennsylvania Railroad 7048. That thing's cool. Look at that hot chick. Hell yeah. All right, stay tuned, folks. All right, folks, got another westbounder. Working hard. All these trash cars here. They were on the last train too. A dinosaur. Looks like we might have DPU coming. Be cool to catch an eastbound or get a meet or something like that. I think there's 3 tracks here, yeah. 3 lines. Coming through. Look at that. Look at those brand new Gons. Man, that was cool. Wonder if they'll have a helper or two like the last train. Sorry about the shakiness. I'm using a selfie stick. Brand new selfie stick. I got it about a week before that I left, along with other cameras. time to get through here. Going westbound, going up into the mountains. Be cool if we saw Amtrak today. I know they come through here. Vinyl chloride. I believe that's the nasty stuff they spilled in East Palestine. I don't know. I think it was vinyl chloride. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's a whole lot of it here. Thing's a monster, y'all. Sounds like we got some helpers coming. Helpers coming through, man. Couple SD70s pushing up the hill. Man, that's awesome right there. It's a good train. All right, folks. Took him 15 minutes to get through here. How awesome was that? Well, stay tuned, you know we're going to get more. Well, alrighty folks, we got an eastbound train. It's gonna come right around them bushes right there. And I'm sitting on a picnic table. This is awesome. Man, look at that shiny new rebuild. Alright. Look at that. That thing's brand spanking new. Mixed manifest. I thought it would have been a grain train, but up front it is. Unless they put more. Yeah, it makes sense they could tack more than one train on one, you know. You can do 2-in-1s here. Now, like I said, only if we got a train meet would that be awesome. But you very rarely here do you get 3. That locomotive right there is a GP9 high hood. Man, this is a big train. Yeah, you can smell where they're using their brakes, applying their brakes. Smell the brakes. Smell the brake shoe. Comes some John Deere's. High and wide, baby. Auto racks. Loaded auto racks. Wow, you never see that towards the end. You never see like tractors towards the end, but hey, may not be the heaviest thing. Usually on a highway, you see stuff up front. Anyways, got a DPU coming through. Pulling back, helping the braking process. Awesome. Hear the sound echoing off these cliff walls too. That's crazy. Well, alrighty folks. There they go. Okay. Cool, let's wait for one more. Stay tuned. Alright folks, got another westbound train coming. And look at that. That's some Canadian National Power, some rival power on it. Oh, he is moving. It's an ethanol train. Looks like an empty ethanol train, but an ethanol train nonetheless. There goes a buffer car. There's Michael and our Bruce. I'm just kidding. Oh, that was cool. Up the ethanol train with some rival power on it. Canadian National. Cool. Well, let's see what else we can get. Keep it right here. Alrighty, boys and girls. Folks of all ages. We got an eastbounder. I think these are those two helper locomotives coming back. Yeah, they are. Cool. Well, that was awesome. Horn salute there. Nice, good one. Good horn salute. Alrighty. Alrighty, folks. I'm here at Horseshoe Curve. Already got a few trains here, so pretty cool stuff. We are going to be heading out of here in a little bit, though. We got to continue on. We're going to stop by Gallitzin, I believe, get some trains there. Check this out. I'll pause that and read it at your leisure there. There. Here's the Horseshoe Curve, right? And there's Gallitzin. So there's 3 lines here. I think it's 3. Or at least it's 2, but all right. Well, stay tuned. Alrighty, folks. Got another westbound train coming. Now, all you're going to see here is Norfolk Southern and Amtrak. But we're probably not going to see any Amtrak today. trash cars. I think this is almost the same stuff I saw sitting outside of Horseshoe, Pennsylvania yesterday. It looks like it anyways. Doesn't mean that it is. New Jersey Department. So this is Jersey trash. Smell that. Ugh. Old stink train. Yuck.
Nothing like garbage container.
Old stink train. Oh man, that's each one of these containers is 62 cubic yards. The weight probably varies. And they're just sitting on these spine cars. They're probably 62 cubic yards of trash. It may or may not be compacted. Gotta wonder where they're taking it to. Excuse me. I'm tired. Near the end of the trip. I'm gonna be home tomorrow. We've been gone since last Friday. Not yesterday, but the Friday before. These are Bridgewater Resources, is what that one thing said. But you can tell these cars don't stay alive. There's not a lot of tags on them. They don't like hang around. They move them. You can tell if there's DPUs out here or there's eastbound train coming. Pretty cool if we had an eastbound train. I'd like to have a train meet. Yeah, probably DPUs. Just echoing up the other mountain there. It could be DPUs, could be man helpers. Coming through. Cool. Well, that was awesome, folks. Let's see what else we can get into here. Awesome, wants to climb that hill. Stay tuned. All right, I'm in the museum for Horseshoe Curve. Now, when you guys come here, it is you have to pay to get in. So I'm not gonna read these because the music, the camera might pick it up. So go ahead and pause that and read that. at that. I'm gonna go in and watch this film. Look at that. Look at that. FBI seizes 8 Nazi saboteurs put ashore by U-boats. Huh. To read more about that, I'm gonna go in here. Check out some of these old, like, HO scale trains. Conrail, Penn Central, Amtrak. Look at that. Look at all this. I'm talking about the maintenance away and all that.
This is cool. It talks about the English.
The water supply system. They're trying to bring reservoirs.
Pause that. Read that at your leisure. Normally I'll read that for you, but read all this stuff, but curves have always had a percentage. Specials had a promise for track for maintenance screws. Horseshoe curve is an extreme case because the curve is so tight. The engineering terms, the tightest part is 9 degrees, 25 minutes. It is the sharpest of all curves on the Philadelphia-Pittsburgh main line. When the steam trains descended, its curve or frequent upgauge brakes would cause sparks to fly. Friction would grind away the insides of the rails to change their shape. Railstone's platforms show this kind of wear. So we're going to check that out. Oh yeah. You can see the difference. That's cool.
Track leveler.
Yep.
It's got a little in it and everything.
Look at that. Levels the tracks out. That's so cool. But yeah, you can see the difference in the rail. That's so cool. Women on the railroad. Occasionally, women applying for work within the railroad would be assigned to a signal tower, which probably meant it did the hiring, though. From a current perspective of a male-dominated area, it seems difficult to believe they would put a young woman alone in a position of life and death responsibility. Yet here is the photographic evidence. Mrs. Mary Daughtry Adams Left was born in 1853. At age 17, Mary went to work for the Pennsylvania Railroad and was reputed to be the first woman to handle signals in the tower on Horseshoe Curve. After the death of her husband in 1901, Miss Adams became a railroad telegraph operator in Gallitzin and Ebensburg. She lived to be 96. Very cool. Now there's a little gift shop over there. We're going to walk over there and try to find a sticker or two. Look at that. That's cool right there. The conical shape of that steam tower. Exhaust port. Herman Scott. Andrew Carnegie. Very cool. Edgar J. Thompson, there's the head engineer. Look at that. Horseshoe Curve on Nazi list for destruction as spies are caught. 17 arrested in countrywide gambling raids. Well, they messed up. A little ballast. All right. Cool. Talks about the reservoir system. There's several reservoirs coming up. Awesome. All right, folks. Let's walk over to that gift store, see if we can get a sticker. Stay tuned. All right, everybody. We've moved to Gallitzin, Pennsylvania, which is about 10 minutes away, or 20 minutes, well, 10 miles, 20 minutes. So, there it comes. I can see the light on the rails. I'm eating lunch at the same time. Oh, you're gonna track closest to. Let's kind of get away from it a little bit. Looks like we got a coal train. Empty coal train, but we got one. DPU. Double DPU coming through. Very cool. All right, everybody. Let's see what else we can get. Keep it right here. All right, everybody. I'm gonna look all the way there. Look at that. See all the way to the other end of the tunnel. I heard a train, but I don't know where it is. Actually, you know what? There's two tunnels. There's another one over there that looks like it was sealed off. But they made this one here for modern day trains. I think I hear it. Whatever it is, it echoed through the mountains. It sounded like it was right there. But it is not, because I can't see it. I was thinking maybe it was going to come eastbound, but this is probably another westbound train. And we'll wait for that. Stay tuned. I think I see a train light. Here it comes. Not sure what kind of train we got here. We may have our first intermodal of the day. That doesn't seem like a really long tunnel, but it is. The locomotives are inside the tunnel now. It looks like he's on the far track. Well, I'm going to pause this, wait till he gets closer. All right, he's a rumbling, and I can hear him rumbling. This will be my final train in Gallitzin. My phone's going to die. I got to get it charged, and we're going to start heading towards Thurmond, West Virginia. About 4 hours away, almost 5 hours, so we think we can do it. First intermodal train of the day. picking up some speed here. Trailers. What kind of trailers we got? More trailers. Alright folks, it's going to do it for us here in Pennsylvania. Appreciate you guys joining me in Pennsylvania, and we'll see you in West Virginia. Alright folks, keep it right here. All right, everybody, we're headed down to Thurmond. Mrs. Boats didn't want to listen to my placement of the GoPro. Anyways. But I want to show you guys something. Look at that. Waterfall. God, get out of my eye, you damn gnat. Get out of here. There's trails all over the place. I mean, look at that down there. If you get down there, that'd be a cool swimming hole. You see the deep spot? Those rocks are nice and wet, so they look pretty slippery, so I'm not going down there. And of course Mrs. Boat's here. Alright, everybody, we're headed down to Thurmond right now to get some CSX action. Stay tuned. from Thurmond, West Virginia. I have never officially been down here. I've passed through here on Amtrak the Cardinal P51 when I was going to Cincinnati about 8 years ago. and I'm very familiar with lots of parts of West Virginia, and I'm familiar with where Thurmond is and all about it, but I've never actually been here to watch some trains. We got the rig over there. We're kicking some breakfast right now. We'll show you more downtown Thurmond here in a little while. But here is what they call the Visitor Center and the Amtrak station. This is the second least used Amtrak stop in the United States. So the other one's in Texas. That is the most least used, if that makes any sense. Now, we got a couple cars down here. We got a young lady in a pickup truck, and we got a park ranger. We got a park ranger there in that, I think it's a RAV4. He's over there. Uses a visitor center now. Now, those people are walking up because Amtrak's getting ready to come. So maybe they're getting on the train. You see the folks down there? Right there. So maybe they're getting on the train. Which, not a lot of folks get on the train here, but it's really cool. Just waiting on the train, and it should be here in a couple moments. But let's talk about Thurmond before I show you downtown. Now look at this. That's a one-lane bridge. We're going to walk on that later. Not walk on the tracks. We're going to walk on the bridge. There are step-off points to the left where if a vehicle comes, you can step off, and it is really close. But we're going to go check out the New River, which right now, if you're familiar, New River Gorge National Park and Preserve, that's where we are. That's who owns this town now, is the National Park Service. I talked to not that gentleman there, but there's another gentleman way down there. I'm not trying to give out his little hiding spot, but he was camping down here last night, something I wanted to do, but I didn't get here till too late, so we ended up staying in Beckley. Amtrak should be here any moment. As soon as these signal lights go off, I don't know, I think it has, I don't see bells or speakers or anything, so we'll see what happens here. But Amtrak will not take long to get through. Now, there's an old coaling tower down here. You can see a little bit of it way beyond the signals there. That's an old coaling tower. I'll go explore that later. I'm not really sure what that is, but there's a bathroom over there. So if you're down here, you got what you need. You got the bathroom. It's a drop toilet. No running water. You don't really have any water. So if you're going to come down here and you're going to quote unquote camp, you better have your own water supply with you. I know I have mine. It's 9:50. So yeah, I just want you guys to enjoy some of the sights and the sounds. Look up there. So yeah, there's an old luggage cart over there, kind of behind the, there it is. Yeah, we're gonna go on that bridge a little later. But like I said, we're waiting on Amtrak. And hopefully, we're here for a couple hours this morning and we actually get more than one train. I know I got one down here last night. Got a grain train with empty coal hoppers, an empty grain train, empty coal hoppers. But Amtrak is going to stop down there where that platform is. Down here. See that platform is right there? That's where they'll stop. They'll pick up those people. It'll be like a minute station stop. And then they will carry on. This is the Cardinal. This is P050. Comes out of Chicago. It originates in Chicago. Huh? He originates in Chicago and terminates in New York City. Its counterpart is P-51. It goes right through the city of Cincinnati. And anyways, this is an old Chesapeake and Ohio line. So this is also one of the same lines that goes across the very top of Kentucky there, the Ohio River. So through Maysville and Augusta, the same line that I've filmed a few times in Augusta and Maysville and Dayton, Kentucky. So we'll keep waiting on Amtrak. All right, everybody, here it comes. Yeah, these lights came on, so no bells, no gates, no booms, no nothing. Listen to that echo. All right, actually, there they go, folks. People actually got on. That's really cool. Hopefully we get something more than just Amtrak today while we're here. Morning. Cool, there they go. All right, folks, stay tuned. All right, folks, as soon as I walked away from Amtrak, we got a medium clear for a westbound train there. And there he is. Looks like we got an empty grain train and westbound to get more grain here. We're gonna eat some breakfast and then I'm gonna go explore Thurmond. previous trains might be from the old Clinchfield route in North Carolina. They're still working on that, so. They're running some of the trains through here from that route on Family Lines. Right there for old Buckeye Freight railing. They're running some of the trains from the Clinchfield route here, and then they're also running them on the Corbin route, but that won't last forever. All right, cool, there they go. Well, we're gonna stick around. We got a couple hours to go, and we'll see what we can get. So do me a favor, keep it right here, folks. All right, everybody, we told you after breakfast I would explore a little bit of Thurmond, and this is the walkway that you have to take to get to their quote-unquote commercial district. Now, let me explain something about the tracks real quick. So these are the mains. There's one track, there's two track, and over there is the R.J. Corman siding that goes up the Pax to a coal mine. So right now the signals for westbounds are all red, and so if it changes, you'll see it. But we'll be able to catch any eastbounders too. So let's go through Thurmond here. This is the old post office. Look at this old cart. Then you got some benches dedicated to some folks. A little overgrown, but it's summertime. That'll happen, especially with nobody going down here to maintain anything. Almost Ghost Town, a film by Jillian Carney. Ow, I'm gonna have to check that out. Scan to watch the sizzle. So this is where basically the National Park Service has saved these structures, because they have the option to tear them all down, but I'm glad they didn't. Well, I guess there is a road over there. I guess you have to go around. Look, government property, U.S. property, no trespassing. And here's where all the old water towers, there was 2 water towers, and here's where they used to sit, right on top of these foundations. So, a couple picnic tables up there. You can clean them off if you want to have a picnic. And here's the other ones. Now, Thurmond used to be a hopping point back in the 20s. I mean, rough as tumble as they get. And the only access to the town was by rail. So you could only come in by train. So There's a house up there. Not much exploring to do because it's all closed up, but and here's the commercial district of Thurmond. I guess you can get down here via go across and up and down. Huh. And here's where that R.J. Corman branch line comes into the main and switches into the main here. There's that house up there. What's that say? Erskine Pew House. Cool. That's neat. Probably say what all that is in the visitor center. I'll go in there a little later. This old hand-built stone wall. That is awesome. New River Banking and Trust Company, depository for the state of West Virginia and the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad Company. Mencken Cox Building. Let's take a look in there. There is cameras. I don't know what you guys can see there. There's not much to look at. Look at that old wall over there. Look at the... See, there's a
tin wall.
Not much to look at. Old tin wall on that side too. You can't see it because all the dirt on the glass. All right. Let's see. In 1904, Dr. J. Ward Mencken paid $4,000 for this 150 by 40 foot lot, then constructed this building. Dr. Mencken organized the Mencken Drug Company, which Mrs. Mencken, a pharmacist and the University of Maryland graduate, operated on the first floor. Dr. Mencken ran a private medical practice, served as physician for 4 mine operations, and was a surgeon for the Chesapeake and Ohio Railway Company. Through the years, the Mencken building served as many functions under numerous owners. In addition, Mencken Drug Company that housed Dr. Mencken's medical office, a dentist's office, residential apartments, and the New River Banking and Trust Company. In 1904, the Mencken building marked the edge of Thurmond's town limit. Today is one of just 3 original structures remaining from the town's commercial row. These 3 survive as a testimony to Thurmond's vibrant era of coal and railroads. Notice the Mencken building right as it appeared sometime after 1910. Said there was a town fire at one time. I feel like every town has some sort of fire at some point, you know? Like big fire. Look at that. Something reaching across there. I don't know if that's a pipe or what that is, but look at all the ivy growing on top of this building. Oh, wow. The fact that they actually got in these buildings and put in stuff like that is amazing. Captain Thurmond acquired 70 acres along the river along the Scioto tracks completed through the gorge. First loads of coal shipped from the Scioto mainline to Thurmond, 1889. Wow. Thurmond was incorporated in 1903. The original depot and hotel Thurmond built in 1891. National Bank of Thurmond failed in the 30s, 1931. The last steam locomotive operated in New River Gorge came through in 1958. 1963, Lafayette Hotel, formerly the Hotel Thurmond, burned. 1968, the first commercial rafting in the New River began. 1984, railroad offices on Thurmond Depot closed. The engine house burned in 1993. In 1995, the National Park Service reopened the depot as a visitor center. So, yeah, that's really neat. But the fact that they got in there, look at them old brick walls, old stone walls. Now, you can't get up there. I mean, you probably could, but why do you need to? You got all the signs right here. This explains everything. There's the old coaling tower. We'll talk about that in a moment. Goodman Kincaid building. During the 1930s, the Thurmond rail yard was still very active with steam engines. Periodic maintenance and repairs on the engines were made. A 250-foot long engine house. The Chesapeake and Ohio Railway was one of the last railroads to change from steam to diesel in the 50s, changing Thurmond forever. Thurmond school children traveled on the local train number 13 westbound to high schools in Ansted and Montgomery. Wow. That old wallpaper. That is so cool. Well, it looks like the National Park Service hasn't gotten this building, or this part of the building yet. I think they have a wall built up. Somebody broke the glass. Some butthole. Some jerkhole. Wow. National Bank of Thurmond, member Federal Reserve System, U.S. State and County and Ford Motor Company Depository. Their nest up there, look at that. Wow, the fact that they were able to get up there and put cameras in there is crazy. People don't come in here and vandalize this stuff. Safety deposit boxes for rent. Thurmond's economy was strong enough to support two banks with hundreds of thousands of dollars changing hands each year between 1910 and 1914. Over 47 businesses contributed to Thurmond's robust economy. The community developed into a major center for private enterprise, a rare thing in a region where coal companies often held a monopoly with individual towns. Any amount starts an account. 3% interest on savings. Fueling up the train, so it talks about the coaling tower there. I'll let you look at the coaling tower. I read this. A major use of coal was fuel for steam trains. Coal was used to heat the water in the boiler of each locomotive, making steam that powered the train engine. It was one of the few places in the gorge where locomotives could be refueled. The coaling station was one of the most important structures in towns. This tall building not only supplied locomotives with coal, but also replenished these huge machines with sand, which was used to enhance the train's traction abilities while moving along the rail lines. Trains were resupplied with water at a water column that was just up the tracks that we looked at, and it was back there. So here explains. Let's say the coal used to be used as locomotive fuel. It was offloaded from a train car and a receiving hopper and below the tracks. Coal was sent to the conveyor by a roll crusher and then to the boot where the buckets collected the crushed coal, and an elevator transported these loaded buckets of coal to the top. The coal was dumped into the feeder chute that directed it into one of the storage bins, the two storage bins. Coal was dispensed in the locomotive's fuel tender above through the adjustable gates on either side of the structure. Sand was also dispensed in the locomotives used for traction on the locomotives. So, And this one, a town built on top of itself. Thurmond ran from the river's edge up the hill, homes dotted the hillside. Large businesses like the Hotel Thurmond, an armor meat company, along with small shops, a jeweler, shoemaker, barber, and others, served the needs of residents and visitors. Radio, a daily newspaper, and the telephone exchange kept people connected with the news of the day of the growing nation. So that's where we are right there. But look how much used to be here. Like, look at all these buildings here. And then you got some, like, coal houses for miners and stuff. You got the water things. You got buildings on the other side of the track. That's the depot, I think. Yeah. A changing town. Access to places outside the gorge improved. Thurmond's importance declined. Area coal mines also declined in productivity. The most significant changes, however, came by 1949 when the nation's railroad industry had switched from steam to diesel-powered engines. As a major center for the Chesapeake and Ohio Railway steam locomotive operations, Thurmond was the final place on the line to service steam trains. Eventually, these train facilities were no longer needed. Over the years, the town businesses closed or moved away, as did many residents. But as coal production in the gorge continued to decline, a new outdoor recreation industry grew. The first whitewater boating company, Wildwater, opened here in 1968. Other whitewater rafting businesses later followed. In 1978, the National Park Service established the New River Gorge National River and redesignated in 2020 as the New River Gorge National Park and Preserve. This park preserves not only the nature, scenery, and recreational opportunities of the gorge, but also interprets historic communities like Thurmond for the enjoyment of present and future generations. So, really neat. Really. What are you doing?
Checking out the butterflies.
Are they doing it?
No.
Oh. Okay. Well, I'm going to keep going.
Okay.
So yeah, that's, I mean, look at the walls there. And that's Thurmond. So yeah, let's see. Let's walk down to this building. I feel like there's a couple more buildings down here. Oh yeah, look at all these guys. See them all? Cool. Not going to bother those guys for sure. Look at that. I wonder what that is. There's a lot of them flying around up there. There's a old garbage can. Here's the coaling tower. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Oh, this is the town hall. Oh, man, look at all this right here. Look at these guys. You don't want to go up there. Well, stay tuned. I'm going to do some stuff. All right, everybody. I haven't done what I wanted to do yet, but there's some more buildings. Apparently, this one's getting turned into an Airbnb. Thurmond Historic Guest House. It's got a bunch of stuff. Old stuff, but yeah. It's being refurbished right now, I guess. find us an Airbnb. I'm gonna go down through here, so hold on, we'll do that. All right. Sid Childers and Margie Richmond house. It's a big building for a house. Some rail over there. There's like a road. There's like the back porch. So cool. No trespassing, so I'm not gonna go up there. Marilyn Brown house. Look at all the writing, the graffiti all over it. Some people just don't really respect anything, I guess. Oh, excuse me. Fatty Lipscomb house. Huh. Well, apparently there's a FU up there, so I guess Fatty didn't like guests. Well, stay tuned. All right, so before I do my next thing, look at the weight, but look at that. Chassis system, November 1984. Wow. Yeah, so this is all continuous welded rail, so there's sections of it are different. Some of it's rolled by Rocky Mountain Steel, some of it's rolled by Bethlehem Steelton. So yeah, different sections, welded rail. Pretty cool stuff. Well, let's continue on. Stay tuned. All right, let's talk about this coaling tower and take a look at it, shall we? Oh, I wish you could get up them steps, but boy, they look like they've seen better days for sure. Those are wooden steps on metal rails. But yeah, amazing. I mean, in that diagram, it showed how this thing used to operate. Now, I'm not going to cross the tracks, even though I've done it plenty of times before, just not here. Yeah, I'm going to go around the side and can read that date. Built by Fairbanks and Morse, Chicago, Chesapeake and Ohio, 1922. Very cool stuff. Very cool. If I can go wide angle, get the whole thing. Yeah, there you go. Cool. Well, next stop is the visitor center, I guess, so hang tight. All right, everybody, let's talk about Thurmond. So ribbons of steel and still are the main street of Thurmond. For over 80 years, trains were the primary method of travel, linking over 50 New River communities to each other and connecting the gorge to the rest of the United States. Thurmond was a primary entrance to New River coalfields in 1910. Its busiest year, 76,000 passengers got on or off the train here. The Great Depression, the railroad switched from steam to diesel, and America's growing love of automobile. However, all negatively impacted Thurmond's economy. By 1950s, its prominence along the railroads in the region had declined. So yeah, freight trains still come through here, and you know, you got Amtrak. But 1873, the Chesapeake and Ohio Railway was completed. 1888, the post office was established in Thurmond. 1889, Thurmond Bridge was completed. 1891, the original depot was built. 1903, Thurmond incorporated original depot with Burns the same year. 1904, coal depot was built. 1921, road from Glen Jean completed. 1931, National Bank of Thurmond failed. 1958, last steam locomotive operating in the gorge was retired. 1968, first rafting. 1995, the post office closed and the depot reopens as a visitor center. So there's that. Yeah. We're gonna go check out the bridge here in a little bit. That bridge. Stay tuned. So there goes the Ford truck across the one-lane bridge that you can walk on, and I am going to do just that. Tight clearance. Like, see if we get some rafters come down, but I don't see any right now. We'll go to this first spot here. These are little step offs you can go to when a vehicle's coming. There it is, the New River, one of America's oldest, and one of the oldest in the world. Well, let's see what we can get into. There's somebody fishing down there. All right, everybody, came inside the visitor center. Feels good in here. Look at that. We're in what used to be the yardmaster's office. I got all this stuff, all these books, letters, telephone box, telegraph apertures over there. All that, stamps, typewriter, burros. I can't remember what the name of that thing is. Look at that. All right, Yardmaster. This talks about the renovation of the visitor center and the depot. How all these buildings were falling apart. Look at how that looked back in the day. Like, and actually pretty nice. They really need to do a lot of work to these buildings instead of letting them fall in disrepair. Well, this is the telegraph office.
I told you that was a stapler in there.
You don't know.
Yeah, because here's the telegraph.
You don't know.
That was a stapler on that desk.
So apparently I might have been wrong, but whatever. I'm thinking she's wrong too. But that's the telegraph. That's telegraph aperture. This guy used to do the whole that stuff. So this talks about the signals as well that you can see from here. But there's old semaphore signals. They're no longer in any operation. Telegraph office.
This room, the Railroad Telegraph Office, was Thurmond's nerve center. Train dispatching was decentralized in the steam era. Workers along the line ran the railroad, and everything depended on how well they did their jobs.
In those days, the people in the telegraph towers, ticket offices, yard offices, and the cabs and cabooses on the trains were responsible for the efficiency and safety of the road. They were a special breed.
The telegraph kept them in touch. Lacking onboard communications, train crews received written instructions, copied down by the nearest telegrapher, and handed up from the stations and trackside telegraph cabins. The local train dispatcher was lower of the railroad line, with control of trains operating throughout his territory. The dispatcher relayed his orders through the telegraph operator, who sent them up and down the way. That made the telegrapher a critical link in the railroad hierarchy, an admired and sought-after position.
I knew early in life, when I was in the 6th grade, that I wanted to be a telegraph operator. I had no desire to do anything other than that. I would take my telegraph key to school with me, and I created some disturbance with the station and the class on their off back.
The glass is still like that old leaded glass, maybe? An elevator?
Surrounding coalfield, alive with adjoining freight station. The rumble of the rails never ceased, and the rhythm of railroad business governed life in Thurmond. The town went to work in the morning with the 7 o'clock engine house whistle, paused for lunch with the noon whistle, and caught his breath with the C&O shift change at 3.
The railroad was life, our means of bread and butter.
Thurmond lies wedged in a great bend of the New River. Thurmond was a hard-working town, and its main boss was the Chesapeake and Ohio Railway. The C&O's appetite for labor was huge in the days of steam, when huffing locomotives required frequent stops for fuel, water, and maintenance. Thurmond was a key service point.
About all that was down there was railroad. The ones that actually lived determined just bet you $5 they were railroad.
Cool. Well, that's the top half of the visitor center. There's not much downstairs, but we would check it out anyways. Keep it here. All right, so this is the old baggage claim room. An old like bag and scale. Some old replica luggage over there that looks like, not replica, but they probably should go in there and clean some of those cobwebs out of there. This baggage room was open around the clock and was stored here and then put on proper trains. Mail was sorted, distributed, extra baggage, even coffins was charged by weight. Baggage also included perishable food that had to be kept away from the rats. Huh. Cool. Oh, that's pretty neat. There's a waiting room that I want to go into, but I think you have to go and do the other side, so we'll check that out. So here's the waiting room. Look at that. 52 DC, 956. The Cardinal is due tonight at 6:58. I'm not going to be here for that, so 51. But look, the Cincinnati bound Cardinal is not going to be here till 6:58 tonight.
Oh, man.
Thurmond showing up mile marker 391 is on the main line between Washington, D.C. and Cincinnati, Ohio, even though it's made up of small fractions of Chesapeake and Ohio. Total business was passenger service, and it was impressive with over 15 trains traveling through the gorge daily. In 1911, over 71,500 passengers boarded at the station to go to work, school, or shopping. Hobos. We all know what a hobo is. People that seek adventure by hopping freight trains, like Shoestring, our rusty soul. But here's all the hobo stuff. But yeah, throw some pictures. Feels good in here. All right, look at that. All right, let's go do a little shopping. Yeah, for sure. Brings back a lot of memories of almost dying on this river. See, that's how close it is. It gets even more narrow right there, but it's nuts. Anyways, there they go. Over here on this side.
How long have they been on the river? Did they just go in?
There they are. Then hit some of these rapids over here, these simple class 1s. Well, there's a car coming, so I'm going to go ahead and get off of here. Folks, unfortunately, my friends, this is where our adventure ends here in Thurmond, West Virginia. We are now headed home. We've had a great time over these last 10 days. I tell you what, I've had an absolute blast, and I hope you have had too. I hope you've had a great time too, hanging with me, my friends. I really do appreciate it. It's been so awesome. To go from a Revolutionary War battlefield in New York to end here in Thurmond, West Virginia, to get even more history of post-Civil War and post-World War I history, and even to see Thurmond through the ages is absolutely incredible. It really has been such an adventure over the last 10 days, and I really do appreciate it. So with that being said, my plan is to combine all of these videos. Once I get them all out, I'm going to get the third part out here soon, next week or coming up this week, and then after that I'll get the fourth part out, and then I'm going to combine them all into one video, which is going to be like 4 or 5 hours long or even more. It's going to be a good time, just so you guys can watch the whole trip. The next big adventure is down to the Smoky Mountains, coming in the weekend of my birthday. So my birthday is September 18th. Following that, on September 19th to the 22nd, I'll be headed down to the Smokies with my cousin and hopefully my buddy Andy, my homie Andy. The wife's got to go, so we're gonna hopefully, we're gonna have a good time. Hopefully the nephew's gonna go too, and we're gonna have a great time down there. But anyways, like I said, the past 10 days have been quite an adventure. It's had its ups, it's had its downs. Most of the up parts, you guys have all seen that. The down part was my phone definitely breaking and basically send the kid off to his own to be in college. Goodbyes can be tough either way. But like I said, overall it's been a great time, a great adventure, and I'm ready to hit it. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this one out, y'all. So like, comment, subscribe, share if you haven't done so already. Hit that little alert button for me. You'll get all the notifications for when I post. And if you have more time, please watch another video, because every video you watch really helps my channel. It really does. You hit that like button, you hit that subscribe button, you'll become part of the adventure crew. And stay tuned for some more stuff coming up with that in the future. All right, so until we meet again, out on the rails, have a good day.